Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome back to our massive review of an incredible game called Twilight Imperium. In this video I'm going to talk about domain counters, which are optional in the game, and then also leader tokens. Enjoy! Alright, bringing you back to the galaxy here, we want to talk about these domain counters. As you see, I put some out. There's some in space, there's some you put on planets, per planet, so honestly, that one would have one too. And then, of course, they even have optional ones, and these are from all three expansions, by the way. They do have optional ones that you place specifically on Mechatol Rex. The ones you place on Mechatol Rex, if you want to, are not very nice. That means there are 2 ground forces there and 3 fighters that you'll have to fight to take over the planet. Now, you don't know what these counters are until you get to that planet. Then you can flip it over. It can be something bad, or it can be something really good. Same thing in space. When you get in that area, you flip it over. It could be something good. It could be something horrible. That's just another option of things you can play with the game. And now, so what do each of these actually mean? Well, just to give you like a short rundown of them all, let's look at them here. First off, if you get one like this, that's basically a biohazard. And it's a hostile environment. The planet requires terraforming. So the first ground troop or ground force unit to land here is eliminated while this token remains. Now you would discard this counter after the player successfully invades the planet. So the first time you invade it, depending on how many ground forces you send, if you flip this over, it could eradicate all of those ground forces. That sucks. And then you'll have to go again on the second round, put more ground forces down to claim the planet. The next one's radiation. It says a planet that contains unexpected high levels of radiation. You would kill all ground forces of the initial landing, then remove this counter. So same thing, kind of like biohazard. Radiation would also suck. Of course, you got hostile locals. It could be 1, it could be 2 of them, it could be 3 of them, and they're basically like ground forces that you may have to fight on that planet. You could find some Lazax survivors, which is part of the story of the game. Now, if you found one of these guys, you can use this counter to receive 3 additional votes toward any political agenda. So it's really cool. We'll talk about this when we get to the political phase. But if you find one of these, you keep it, and it counts as 3 extra votes. Only once. Once you use it, it's gone. But that's really cool if you find one of them. Then you have this one that says Settlers. You would return all of your ground forces to their carrier or war sun, whatever, and roll the die. Now on a 6+, you would place 2 free ground forces on the planet for free. You don't even have to buy them. But on a roll of 1 to 5, you determine a random opponent, and that opponent places 2 ground forces from their bin on that planet. So either you're going to take it and get free ground forces, or you're going to have to give that planet over to an opponent, which would suck, and you have to fight it from them on the next round. So that's really interesting. Other stuff you have here, you can discover wormholes, A or B wormholes. Like I said with the wormholes, if you discovered it, that would go to any A one, that would go to any B wormhole. So that's kind of cool. It helps you get around the board a lot faster at times. You can also find good things like Technology Society. It says the player to your left must search through your technology deck and give you a free technology advance, one that you have the necessary requirements for. And we'll talk more about this when we talk about technology, but that's really awesome when you get a free tech just for discovering that area, that planet there. Also, you have some wealth here. You can grab 2 or 4, depending on what the token says. Trade tokens. Trade tokens are very important. We'll talk about them another time. This one is Industrial Society. Now, you can immediately place a free space dock on the planet if you want to. And by the way, when you get this planet, it is not received as exhausted. Whenever you take over a planet, it automatically comes to you as an exhausted. You cannot use its resources or its influence. However, if you have this token on that planet, you can use its resources or influence during that same round. So that's really cool. One just says peaceful planet, nothing wrong. You take it over without incident. It's always a welcome relief to get one of those. Other things you have is native intelligence. You can look at any other domain counter on any planet of your choice if you have one of these. This is really cool because it gives you the opportunity to look and see, are there going to be ground forces? Is something bad going to happen if I invade this planet? Or is it good? Maybe it's something I really want. You can only look at one on another planet and then discard this, but this is a very good one to have in my opinion. Another one says it's a hidden factory that you've unearthed, and you would immediately receive any number of ships up to 2 resources worth. So that could be 4 fighters or 4 ground troops or just 2 cruisers, or who knows, whatever you want. Up to 2 resources you can get. So that's kind of neat to get some free ships. Of course, the other one is a hostage situation. This one sucks. When your landing party, however many it be, is taken hostage by the local inhabitants, then you'd have to pay trade goods equal to the number of ground forces that you had landing on the planet. So that kind of sucks. To get the planet over, you have to bribe them to let go of your hostages. This one's another one that sucks. It's automated defense system. You would roll 2 die. Anytime you roll 6 or above, you're going to lose 1 ship in the system. It's basically a hidden PDS cannon. That sucks. But once you do defeat this, if you invade it successfully, you do get to replace this with a PDS of your own. So, like a way, it's bad at first, but then good at the end if it doesn't destroy your whole army. Finally, of course, is the ambush fighters. There can be 2 or 3 of these. Just extra fighters you may have to fight on that planet, so maybe the war isn't over once you try to invade the planet. Other ones here is like an abandoned transport. It says the player who reveals this counter receives 2 trade goods. That's really neat. You get some extra trade goods. Another one I really love is alien technology. You just found this floating around in space, and you can research the artifact to get some technological secrets. So, for instance, basically, you can get any technology that you have the prerequisite for at no cost. So that's really neat. Instead of the other one where the other player had to pick that technology, now you get to pick that technology as long as you have the prerequisites for it. So another token I really love to get. This one is a derelict ship. It's in need of repairs. It's because it was left abandoned in space. But whoever reveals this gets 1 cruiser for free. So that's really neat. You also have the next one that's called Discovery. It says the player who reveals this counter can draw an extra action card. So another nice benefit. This one here is basically, it says the precursor space station. It says while a player controls that system, they need 1 less victory point to win. Wow. So as long as you control that system, whatever it is, this is a space system. As long as you control it, you need 1 less victory point. That's super big in the game. This one is okay. It's just empty space, meaning, hey, nothing bad happened while you're on that space token. Very good. This one's a gravity rift. It turns that area, that space area, into a gravity rift where you have to roll a 1 to 5 to get out of it or you lose your ship. This is dangerous. I don't like this one. Another one would be space pirates. Now here you may just come across some space pirates and you may be attacked. Now, whoever reveals this counter loses all their trade goods, or they're attacked by a dreadnought. So basically, you're fighting a dreadnought. Now, if the player has no trade goods, then you have no choice but to be attacked. So it's either lose all your trade goods or be attacked. Now, after either or, like I said, you have to defeat them, defeat the pirates, then they're done. They are a pain in the booty to deal with. Finally, is probably the worst token that I always hate revealing. As you see, it's on a space token, and it basically turns that area into a supernova, and all your ships who came on that space token are instantly destroyed, and no one can move onto that hexagon anymore. This is the worst token that you can get in the deck there. So, like I said, it adds extra spice to the game if you want to use it or not. One other optional game piece that you can use in the game are leaders. And you get 3 leaders tokens, and they can signify anything. I butchered these from 2 other races here, just to show you what all 5 different types of leaders there are. First off, there's the scientist, and you can tell by that emblem. Now, if you put a scientist on a planet with some kind of technology specialty, like green here, let's say if I put a scientist on that planet and left him on that planet, well, that technology, I'd get a discount of 2 instead of 1. I told you I get a discount of 1 for green technology. If I have a scientist on that planet, I get a discount of 2. So scientists can come in handy for that reason. Another reason you could have a scientist is if you were to build a new space dock on that planet, it would cost 2 rather than 4 resources. So they kind of lower the price of a space dock. Also, PDS units on a planet occupied by a scientist receive a +1 in their roll. So PDSs are more powerful when you have a scientist on the planet. So that's another great thing about them. And then another small thing is planets with PDS cannons and scientists cannot be bombarded by a war sun, which, if you have someone in a war sun, that kind of be a rare, unique situation, I think. I don't think it's ever happened to us, but that's an option for scientists. So scientists are really cool to have. Next up, you have diplomats. You can tell them from this little emblem right there. Diplomats represent a few things you can do in the game. Like if a player's about to be, if a diplomat is on a planet and so, if that planet's about to be invaded, you can actually have them delay their invasion by 1 round. So like if they try to invade it that round, you can stop them for that 1 round. Now that 1 round may buy you enough time to get some ships or maybe build up some forces on that planet. But they basically stall the enemy, basically using their diplomatic skills, right? Also, any ships that contain a diplomat can pass through other enemy ships or other color ships. Remember I told you beforehand where we had the example where they could move 2 spaces, but only if it wasn't through another opponent? Well, if you have a diplomat on there, you can do that. You can go through there with that other person's permission, of course. The diplomat has to work their wheels. You may have to bribe them, give them trade goods or something to go through, but you can only do that when you have a diplomat on board. So if you want to get around the galaxy faster and move through other opponents' ships, a diplomat would be a good thing to have. Now, let's get into the war section of this. Here we have a general. You can tell by his star. Of course, generals wear those stars. Now, when you have a general, okay, during an invasion combat on a planet, they can re-roll up to twice during every round of that invasion. So you send your general down there to invade the planet, they get 2 re-rolls per round. That's really awesome when you have a general. Of course, your general is going to inspire your troops to win. Of course, the same could be said when you're defending a planet with a general. He's going to fight to the bitter end and allow them to do 2 re-rolls. So needless to say, generals are really cool in battle. The next one up is, of course, admirals. Admirals are a little different. They help with space battles. And you can roll an additional die for a ship that is carrying an admiral. Even if they're on a war sun. If you put them on a war sun, they get to roll 4 die. Whoa! Or wherever they're at. Usually only get to roll 1 die. It's 2 die for everything. Unless, sometimes flagships you get to roll 2 die, but if you have your admiral on the flagship, it can roll 3 die. So there's a lot of advantages to having an admiral in the game. And then finally you have the agent. Now what can the agent do? Well, during the invasion, the enemy PDS cannon cannot fire on those forces if you have an agent coming down, because the agent basically disassembled that PDS, or they sabotaged it, so it won't hurt your invading forces if an agent's going down with it. Also, if an agent is successful in that invasion combat, then they can replace that PDS and space dock if there's one on that planet. They can replace the enemy's PDS and space dock with one of their own. So it's really cool to invade with an agent. A lot of bonuses there. Also, you can sacrifice an agent, like kill him off, to sabotage one of those action cards I spoke about earlier in another video. So if someone put a card on you and you don't have a sabotage card to cancel it, you can sacrifice your agent for the game, and that way they would be out. Of course, you see it's on the back and front, so it doesn't matter which side you flip it over on. But he counts as also a sabotage card, so agents are good to have. Now, of any of these, they're all nice. These can be captured, held for ransom, even traded with other species, or you just kill them off if they're, too much of a problem for you. So there's a lot of added layers to the game when you put leaders into it. Now, we played with leaders. I don't know how effectively we use those leaders, because sometimes you forget they're even on the board at times. But they can be very effective, and they're just an optional way, an optional add-on, I should say, on how to play the game. All right, so domain counters really make the game fun. I know a lot of people don't play with it. It may slow down the game a little bit. It sucks when you get one and it's red, because you know it's going to be bad. But then at the same time, you love it when it turns green, because that means it's probably good for you. There's ups and downs on it, just as how domain counters should be, I think. I love it. I've seen people pass over planets because they're afraid it may be a bad domain counter and they don't want to take the risk of it, or go around a space where a domain counter has not been flipped over, because you know they don't want one of those places to supernova and destroy all their ships like it happened to me. But that's just the checks and balances that Twilight Imperium offers. It's an optional part of gameplay, but it's still there, and they thought about it, and I love it. With leader tokens, like I said in the video, we just really haven't gotten used to using them. I know they can be good, but you just sometimes forget about them and everything else that you have. Thankfully, leader tokens are, of course, optional as well. That's the great thing about this game. I think someone wrote in one of the reviews that it's a giant toy chest, and you can play with all the toys or just a few of the toys that you like the most. I like to dump all my toys in the toy chest and play it all. That's really wild, but leader tokens are one of those things where I want to keep playing with them because I want to get better at using each one's ability. Anyway, folks, that's it for this video. See you in the next one.